Okay, we're going to open the Monday, September 18th, 2017 Board of Selectmen meeting. Can we stand at 6:30? Can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have resident public comments submitted by Mike Dempsey, BC Park using Goats to Go as a service.
Hi, Mike Dempsey, 33 Uptack Road, speaking on behalf of the Conservation Commission this evening. And I just wanted to tell your board and also the citizens watching at home about some exciting work that's being done up at VZ Park. We've got farm animals up at the park. They arrived on Monday, August 21st, and we are expecting them to be there about 4 or 5 weeks, so they're about halfway through their tasks. And there's about, I don't know, several dozen sheep there eating the fields of grass and plants and weeds on the hill. And this is brought to us by a company called Goats to Go. They're very generously donating use of their farm animals to clear the field. We normally have to pay someone to cut the field once a year, and it's significantly expensive. So we're very happy that we're able to save that money from our expenses this year, so that's good. And we're actually very happy with the job that they're doing. If you take a ride up to the top of the hill and follow the roadway up there, you can see them up close. They're working on small areas of the field at a time, and it's fenced off by electric fence, so don't touch the fence. But it's kind of interesting just to see how they work and the work they're doing up there. So I wanted to tell you about it, and also welcome anyone else in Groveland to drive by there. And also, as I say a big thank you to Goats to Go of Georgetown. They have a website at goatstogo.farm if you want to learn more about them, perhaps for your own yard. And that's about it. Any questions for me?
They're donating this?
Yes, donation, yes.
That's great. What do you figure you save?
Well, we're saving at least $1,200, so that's what we normally pay to cut the field. So that's good.
Yeah, yeah. They eat a lot. They eat just
Yes.
about all types of vegetation, poison ivy,
Yeah,
all that kind of stuff.
the sheep eat different than the goats, and there's mostly sheep there, and I'm not sure how many goats are there. The goats eat everything, but the sheep are more particular about what they eat.
So you're satisfied with the job they're doing then?
Yes, yes, very good.
You're going to try to engage them every year from now on? Or?
Yeah, we're hoping that they're willing, I mean, it's a benefit to them. The sheep come up from Florida, and it's kind of hot down there during the summer, so he was telling me that he brings the sheep up here to keep them cool.
Yeah, it's not really hot, it's kind of wet down there right now. Too,
Yeah,
I
right.
imagine.
So what do they get out of it? They get free food for the sheep and the goats, and they
Yes.
just go around and...
Yes.
Okay.
In a demo, you know, I mean, it's basically they're plugging their product. If you want to hire them for your yard, you can see what they're doing there, high-profile location.
Did you give them any kind of road sign to let people know what's going on so they get some kind
Yeah,
of free
they
advertising out of it?
did, they did have a road sign up. I'm not sure what happened to it.
Maybe the goats ate it.
They may have, I don't know.
Any other questions for Mike?
Yeah, no, Mike, I'm familiar with the goats.
Yes.
And they're, every place that they've used them, they do a terrific job, but I'm not familiar with the sheep.
The sheep, you know, the sheep concentrate more on lower plants, the grass, more common stuff. And they kind of supplement it by also cutting what they don't eat, and then they'll bring the goats in to kind of do follow-up work.
Send them out, get the lily pads.
Yeah, yeah, I wish they swam, yes.
Teach them. Well, they work cheap, don't they?
Yes, yes. Thank you very
Thanks, Mike.
much.
All right, next up, we have the approval of the warrants. I'll read the warrants. Motion to approve payroll warrant number 18-1/11 in the amount of $161,014.03.
Second.
You gotta make a motion.
A motion to approve payroll warrant 18-11 for the amount of $161,014.03.
You get a second?
I'll second that.
Second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Yes.
Motion to approve bill warrant number 18-11 in the amount of $637,409.32.
Make a motion to approve bill warrant 18-11, the amount of $637,409.32.
You get a second?
Second.
Second, any discussion?
Just, any big numbers in there?
The light department was almost half of that at 360,000, and then about 110 was for water and sewer, which left about 167,000 for town bills.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Yes.
All right. Recognition, July 2017 Volunteer of the Month, James Freer, for his outstanding dedication in volunteerism to the town of Groveland. Bill, would you like to read the citation?
I can't think of too many people in this town more deserving than you. This is Volunteer of the Month for July 2017, presented to James Freer. For countless hours working on behalf of the planning board and for the spearheading the revised zoning bylaws. Jim's knowledge of Groveland history, procedures, and town government is outstanding and invaluable. Jim has served the town for many years, including as a zoning board member. His dedication is truly a shining example for all. Volunteers do not necessarily have the time, they have the heart. Thank you for all you do to make the town of Groveland a better place. On behalf of the town and residents, we give you the community's heartfelt thanks. Can't say enough personally about all the great stories I've heard about you over the years. As far as I can see, you're one of the truly deserving folks in this town to get this award, and I hope it's just the first of a couple for you to hang on your wall.
We're gonna have you sign up for more stuff.
Where's our resident photographer?
He's doing the cameras.
I didn't think this would ever gain a lot of traction, but it's going pretty good, huh, Mike?
All right, next up, we have appointments. We have appointment of Lauren King, 129 Main Street, Groveland, to the Recreation Committee through June 30th, 2018. Could you go up to the podium? First of all, thank you for volunteering. We don't have enough volunteers in the town, so I appreciate you stepping forward. We see your information was sent over. I always like someone that went to Salem State University, too.
Yes, absolutely.
Go Vikings. Anybody have any questions for Lauren?
No, I've read the information she put forward, and it looks like she has quite a bit of knowledge, and I think you'll be an asset to the town. Thank you
wow.
for stepping up.
I appreciate that. I just moved here with my husband and I. We just bought a house, so when I saw the sign about open committee members, I just wanted to get engaged and involved at any level, so I was excited to have the opportunity to see what boards were open.
Excellent. Selectman Watson, do you have any questions?
No, I concur with what my colleague Bill Dunn said, and, certainly come well qualified, and good luck.
Thank you.
We have, I don't know if you, when you get into it, but we have a project that is going on over here with the rec, has been working on with the Pines project, and it's an ongoing project, so hopefully we can get that thing moving and keep it going in the right direction, and we're trying to get some grass and sprinklers and what have you down there, so.
Yeah, that sounds great. That's one of the first areas that I explored, because we walked here. We literally live right down the street, so
Yeah.
that was one of the, I liked the park, but I was interested in hearing more about, future endeavors or projects, so that sounds really great.
Lisa, any questions?
Yeah, just to verify, you go by Lauren King, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Yes.
Bill?
Yeah, I've just got a couple. What's your passion? What drives you as far as the rec committee goes?
So, I mean, I think in my professional life, I work for a nonprofit. I really like seeing growth and change and, you know, the improvement of the lives around me. So I think when Denise provided me with the list of open boards, for whatever reason, that was kind of the one that excited me most. I love checking out, my husband can vouch for that, I love checking out local parks, and it gets me excited to see what my town has to offer, which is why, you know, right when we moved in, I walked down to the Pines. So I think out of all the open committees, that one got me the most excited to be involved and see what future projects I could be involved in.
Do you have any children?
No children at this time.
Okay. Washington Park is a great place to check out, too, if you haven't been there already.
Okay, yes, I have not,
And
so.
what kind of time do you have on your hands?
I mean, I do work
You wanted to
full.
volunteer for something?
Well, you know, listen, we've got somebody stepped up to the plate, you know, if I can have a pinch hit for somebody else, you
Yeah,
know?
right. No, I mean, I do.
All you can say is no.
I do work full-time. I mean, it was my understanding that the meetings were at night, I think. But of course, you know, as much as I could be involved, and I feel like I read that there was, you know, I was reading the minutes to see what, you know, recently was going on the board, and it looked like there was a Groveland Day at one point. I don't know
Yes.
if that's happening again, but that was just an example of something that, like, you know, as us new homeowners in the community would be excited, you know, for us to attend. So just those types of things, I feel like are great for the community. So I think, you know, if I was able to help with any of that, being part of that committee, I would be really excited.
All the help is definitely appreciated and welcome. As they say, many hands make for light work, right?
Absolutely, yes, agreed.
Thank you. And thank you so much for stepping up to the plate. We really need folks like you that are willing to roll up their sleeves and do the work that's called for, as opposed to the other side of the street, which kind of keeps their sleeves rolled down and just kind of critiques everything else. That's no good, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you so
Oh, well,
much.
thank you.
So does someone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we appoint Miss Lauren E. King of Groveland, I don't know where your address is, to
129.
the Recreation Committee for the period ending June 30th, 2018.
I'll second that.
Second, any further discussion?
May I just make a quick comment?
Sure.
So the only reason it's through June 30th, 2018, Lauren, is it's an annual appointment.
Sure.
So each July 1st, the board will reappoint board members.
Sure.
Can we hook her up for like 3 years before she figures this out?
3-year commitment. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we have appointment of Michael Meager, 45 Gardner Street, Groveland, to the Open Space and Trails Committee through June 30th, 2018.
Hello there.
I know Mike pretty well. I didn't know you went to school in Scottsdale.
It's actually online, that's where the school's based.
I thought you actually lived there.
I am a Salem High.
Oh,
so-
even
so,
better.
yeah.
Got all kinds
Close
of
enough.
Yeah, keep Salem going.
Yeah, so I know Mike pretty well. Anybody have any questions for Mike? Bill, you okay?
Yeah, what's another June 30th? We can't sign this guy for 3 years either?
It's another annual appointment.
Okay.
No?
No. Just don't succumb to all the negativity.
No.
Fine.
No, you know, as you probably know, we got this committee going, and they're moving, and they're plugging away, so anything you can put into it would be
Yeah.
greatly appreciated. I know that everyone on the board's pretty eager to get it going, and hopefully get this project taken care of.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that'd be great, for you to step up.
Ed, any questions?
No.
No? Okay. Anybody want to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion. We appoint Michael Miga, 45 Groveland, 45 Gardner Street, to the Open Space and Trails Committee through June 30th, 2018.
You get a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Yes.
All set? Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I just make a comment, Mr. Chair? So Tracy's working on it, but I've gotten some emails that the sound is very distorted, so we are aware of it, and it is being actively worked on, just for those listening at home.
Do we have to swallow the microphones?
It's distorted, it's not coming through clear, so I don't think it's the distance.
The picture's clear though, right?
Yes.
Yeah, you could get up and dance if you wanted to.
But we are working on it, just so people are aware.
Some of these, some work fine and others didn't. So I don't know if
Well,
that's
the
what it
comment that was just made was it's every microphone
really?
this evening.
Okay.
so. Oh, good, thank you.
All right. Discussion and possible vote. Acknowledge receipt of and review open meeting law complaint of Lisa Dubé Carpenter, received September 5th, 2017, and vote to resolve. Will the select woman be recusing herself from this discussion?
Absolutely.
Absolutely, okay. I have read the complaint that Ms. Carpenter filed, and I understand her concern. In the email sent from the finance director, who is not a board member and cannot violate the open meeting law, she specifically wrote, "Please reply only to me to try and ensure compliance with the law." No board member replied all, or even to anyone else but the finance director. Therefore, I do not believe any deliberations or violations took place. However, while I do not believe there were any deliberations or any intention to violate the open meeting law, I can understand where it may be perceived to be polling the board members and therefore not allowed. Therefore, as part of the resolution to this complaint, I am asking the board members to publicly discuss the matter that was before the board via the August 8th email, and to have a public dialogue and take a formal public vote for the record. In addition, and although the process has been handled this way for years, again, with no intention of violating the open meeting law going forward, board members should refrain from asking the finance director or any employee from asking the entire board a question via email. I'd like to ask for a motion to resolve this open meeting law complaint by publicly discussing and voting the matter that was emailed to the board members on August 8th, 2017. In addition, to vote to allow the chair to formally respond to the open meeting law complaint, identifying the steps we took to rectify the matter and our solution to avoid it going forward. Now, as part of the agenda item to resolve the open meeting law complaint, I'd like to make public the topic of the August 8th email and ask the board members to reiterate any thoughts they made about the situation via email and to state their position publicly. So Denise, could you give us a quick kind of timeline again of what transpired? And then we can kind of go through and everyone can respond based on what they thought they were doing.
Yes, however, you just stated that you would ask for a motion
Yep.
to
So we
resolve.
do
Do you
that
want to do
first?
that first before I get into it, so that the board
Yes.
actually allows that conversation to take place?
So we need someone to make a motion.
I'll make a motion to resolve the open meeting law complaint put forward by Lisa Dubé Carpenter.
We get a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Well, any further discussion on that? On that motion? No? All those in favor? All right. Denise, back to you.
Yes, give me one
Yep.
quick second. Okay, so,
Mr. Chair, is it permissible for me to be part of that second discussion? Correct, I can be
Lisa,
part of the second
sorry.
discussion.
Lisa,
correct?
I'm sorry, can you take it?
It's permissible for me to be part of the second discussion, which is discussing what the issue was?
I don't know.
I think it is. I think now that the open meeting complaint is resolved, we're back to
It's
where...
not resolved, though. That's what we're resolving now.
Right, but it's following the format that it should have followed.
I don't see a problem with it. It's up to you as the chair, but I wouldn't see a problem with her participating in the discussion on the original matter, not the resolution of the complaint.
Okay.
Okay. So on August 7th, I was informed that Jeff and Maria's Ice Cream on Salem Street was hosting an annual all-nighter at their establishment to have a late-night bash until 2 a.m. The event taking place on August 16th. It came in late, that was a Monday, it came in late in the day, and I hadn't done any research or talked to anybody. On Tuesday morning, I came in, I did in fact pull their zoning board of appeals decision, their common victualer's license, their, the entertainment license, Mass General Law, that they would have been required to file. I sent a letter off to the owners of Jeff and Maria's, letting them know that they are in violation of several of their Town of Groveland permits and licenses. And that in order to do any type of late-night party, or really anything after 10 PM, they would need permission from several boards and committees. So I did say that, any future violation would be addressed. That was sent off. The next day, I emailed, I did email the owners there. Later on that day, he called me. Actually, let me back up. I believe at that point I copied, because I did copy the board. So I sent a copy of the letter to the board and informed them of what was taking place. Either that day or the next day, I heard from Jeff and Maria's, informing me that they have a substantial financial interest involved. They have made several down payments. They had DJs, food on order, et cetera. And it would be a huge loss to their business if they had to cancel a week out. It was 1 week. If they had to cancel, but if he needed to cancel, he needed to know immediately. I spoke to the chairman, who said he would be okay allowing them to proceed, provided any further attempts at having an event past 10 PM, they would be required to take the steps to get the required permits and licensing. He asked me to let the board know and see what their thoughts were. However, instead of that, I sent an email to the board saying, if you have any objections to this way of proceeding, please reply only to me. That was sent out, at which point I heard, actually, I think, Lisa, you were the first response with a thank you. Bill Dunn responded and said he doesn't have any problem, provided they go to ZBA and get their license in the future. At some point, I heard from Bill O'Neill, but I think before that, I heard from you, Lisa, again, stating that you were not comfortable with that conversation taking place. And then Bill O'Neill, you emailed, I believe, that you didn't have any objections to the matter. And that's really where it stands. So they had their event, it continued on as they originally planned.
So, and I'll speak for myself, and then I'll let Bill, since they were named on the complaint, respond. So from my perspective, the idea was not to adversely affect the business in town, given that he has done this event for several years, was unaware of the kind of steps that he needed to take to get permitting for this type of event. Given his financial obligations that he had put towards this event, and that people were anticipating coming to this event, that we needed to act quickly. I did not think that we were violating open meeting law because, again, as I stated, this process had been handled this way for years. So my idea was just to acknowledge that this is something that he was looking to have done, rectify it going forward, make sure the board was aware of it, and then move on. It wasn't malicious. There wasn't any intent to violate open meeting law. It was just trying to help out a business and not have them adversely affected financially from it. Mr. O'Neill?
Yeah, basically I have the same point, and after reviewing the email where, he told me this is the 4th time they've held this event, and never had any complaints, and even spoke with the selectmen to get approval. That's where I had my big issue, because obviously someone had given him the wink, wink, nod, nod, you're okay to go there, chief. When in fact, that person, that select person, had no authority to do that whatsoever, and then put the rest of us kind of in a bind, as well as putting this particular business owner in a bind because he seemingly made an enormous financial investment in this. So I saw no real problem with it either. I wasn't aware that it was going to be such a violation. But I guess the bigger question I have is, if this was a problem with the selectmen at the email, why wasn't it brought up then? I mean, I guess, me, I got a problem, I bring it up now. I don't wait 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or whatever. So I'm dumbfounded by that. If it was an issue on August 8th, why did it only become a real issue on September the 5th, or whatever it was? So I'm a little confused by that, the timing. I'm also confused by the individuals named, or more specifically, individuals not named. It almost, well, I just won't go into it anymore.
I'd
Mr.
like
Dunn?
to,
Okay, so I did get an email from the finance director stating that, what the thoughts were. I said yes. I understood that this person had done this party or whatever it was in the past, and it had been done more than once. I didn't think it was a big deal. I didn't deliberate between any of the board members at all, never had a conversation, never texted, never emailed anybody on the subject, other than just to tell the finance director I don't have a problem with it. I felt that he's a paying business person in town, he pays taxes, why harm him? He needs to make money. I didn't think it was a big deal, let it go forward. It really, really, really bothers me why we spend so much time every week going between board members and what we're doing wrong, and we have open meeting law complaints. I just don't understand what's going on here anymore. It really is becoming to me. But, again, rather than go to an open meeting law complaint, I would have rather have the party that filed it come to us and say, can I have an agenda item to discuss this or whatever? Why go to that extent? But at any rate, I've been listed on the complaint, and like I said, I don't think I did anything to break the law. I don't think I did anything to hurt anyone. And like I said, my main goal was to protect that business and to try to, help him. I was voted by the town people. I work for the town people as well as I do the business people. So I don't feel bad about what I did, and that's what I get to say.
Okay. Did you want to respond, Lisa?
yes, because I wanted to say that I did try to bring it before the board at the July 21st meeting, I believe. And I raised it, and I was basically told that it wasn't an open meeting law violation and that I should just file a complaint if I didn't agree with that.
In July, you brought this before the board on July?
Excuse me,
before
August 21st.
August 21st is still 2 weeks. Where were you for 2 weeks? Why did you wait for 2 weeks?
Because the law provides 30 days within which to file the complaint. I followed the procedure, and there was no meeting after that. So I filed it at a time where it could be addressed at the next meeting and within the 30-day requirement.
I would,
Again, I need to ask, if this was such an issue on August 8th, why did you not compel the board to convene and address the matter on August 9th, or the 10th, or the 11th, or the 12th, or the 13th, the 14th, or the 15th? Why?
I feel that I did try to do that.
I
So I think you and I disagree about the resolution of it, but when I brought it up, there was basically a comment made that if I had a problem with it, I should file a complaint. There was not any opportunity for people to say that this is not something that should happen. It was basically a very defensive stance, that this was a business owner, and that because of that, it was okay to violate the open meeting law in that circumstance. I think we could go back to those meeting minute notes.
Well, we don't have to, because again, I point out that August 21st, there was ample time, in my opinion, between the 8th and the 16th to bring this up, and I don't understand why it waited till the 21st. When the 21st was so obviously after the fact, this was scheduled for August 16th?
I'm sorry, you're losing me on the dates. What are you looking for?
This all-nighter was
The
scheduled
all-nighter
for the
was scheduled.
16th.
Yes.
So between the 8th and the 16th, there was no opportunity for you to view, your displeasure or your,
I voiced it to Denise in my email.
how does that get to the rest of us?
That's a good question. I can't communicate with the board. That would be a violation of the open meeting law.
Well, you could still communicate with the chairman. That's not a violation of the open meeting law.
So Denise, when I send something to you, you don't share it with the chair?
Not always, I don't, unless it's something that's directly going to the chairman.
Well, the email specifically said, please do not respond to any other board members. That's what it said.
I understand
But I think
that.
the suggestion could be that if this did transpire and you did feel that it was possibly an open meeting violation, that you could have just called me directly, said, I'd like to talk to you about this. I feel that this process or policy is violating the open meeting law and we shouldn't continue, and here's why, A, B, C, D. Instead of going 0 to 100, I'm going to file an open meeting law complaint.
Well, I wasn't,
I think that having conversations and not wasting town people's time, town people's money, and not letting us do the business of the people because we're constantly responding to some kind of allegations or legal consequences every week. A simple conversation would have stopped this and said, Mike, hey, I think we shouldn't be doing this, and this is why. I would have at least listened. Ed, do you have a comment?
Yeah, just a couple. When I received the email, and I read on the bottom, the chair has already given his consent, so I want to reach out to everyone else. If anyone has any objections to this, please let me know as soon as possible. And I took that as, do you have any objections to the granting of the permit? I didn't read it as any objections to the process, and I didn't respond to it because I had a problem with the process. Seeing how the fact that it was brought to attention on the 7th or 8th. We had a week that we could have scheduled a special meeting, and then the vote could have been taken in public. And, you know, we didn't need 5 members of the board to have a special meeting. We only needed 3. And it could have been cleared up and cleared up the way it should have been done, where basically a vote would have been taken in a public venue, the way it probably should have been, rather than handled this way.
You're also assuming that 3 of us could coordinate our schedules, me being the most difficult one.
Well, there was nobody was even asked if they were available to have a meeting between the 8th and the 16th.
Did you make that suggestion?
No, I didn't, because of the
would
fact
be a
that
violation of
if
the
anyone
open
has
meeting
any objections to this, and I took it as any objections to the granting of the permit, not what was just brought out by the finance director, objections to the process. So that's all I have to say.
May I just comment on that
Sure.
quickly? So the establishment owner needed an answer by that Wednesday, or else he was gonna be out financially. So that's why I took it as an urgent matter, because he needed an answer.
And having an emergency meeting did not meet one of the 3
Yeah,
criteria
it
of,
wouldn't be classified as an emergency meeting, no.
right. Bill,
But-
yeah.
Why would it not be classified as an
Bill's
emergency
speaking.
meeting?
I know if I could just, so an emergency meeting is only in severe weather situations or detrimental to public health. Those are the only things that the open meeting law is allowing an emergency meeting to be held within the 48 hours, without posting a 48-hour notice.
So one thing that I would like to clear up is, and who can talk to who? Who
So,
can legally talk to who? So if you get something that you need to feed down through this board,
so I can email all of you. There is no violation of me communicating with the board. You just cannot respond. There can be no
I cannot
dialogue.
respond back to you?
You can respond to me
Not
about
reply all.
something, but it
You
can't
can't
be
reply all.
about the matter. You could call me and say, but it can't be, I cannot pose questions to the board.
Okay,
But if there's a matter of update, I can say,
Here's an update for the board. This is informational. Please don't reply.
Okay.
In one-on-one, you can communicate with each other, but, you know, Bill can't talk to Mike, and then Mike can't talk to
Right,
you,
right, I
because then
understand all
three
that.
people are still involved in the
Right, I
conversation.
understand all
But,
that.
yep,
So if there's an emergency situation in the town, and you want to get the information to all of us, that's all well and good. But if you need our input, we need to have a meeting and all get together behind a table and talk about it, rather than, unless it's an emergency situation.
yes.
Okay.
Would this have constituted, and this would not have constituted an emergency situation?
That is correct.
Respectfully, I'd like to know where you are citing that, because I don't see that language.
That's fine. I can get, town council has given us that in the past on
Yeah.
other matters of emergency.
Because I don't think
meetings.
that that's accurate.
Okay, I'll certainly give you that, because
Okay.
that's been the Secretary of State's position on
Mhm.
the emergency meeting.
Yeah, he was pretty adamant about that when we talked to him.
Well, I spoke to the Secretary of State, too.
Okay. Did they provide you something on an emergency meeting?
I know from being on previous boards that that's not the protocol that we followed.
Well, and that wasn't my knowledge either, but apparently that's what they're upholding now as an emergency meeting.
Only weather, or what was the other thing? Public
health.
safety?
Public health and
Public
safety,
health or
yes.
weather? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, Bill?
So, I don't know how we go forward and try to do the business for the town people. I don't even know how much money was spent on, every week we come in here, on town council, I can see there's a lot of stuff going back and forth with town council. We don't even have a lawsuit before us, and we're spending money with town council. So I would like to know the kind of money we're spending on this kind of stuff. But, I mean, I really think we need as a board, we need to get a good grip on this and figure something out here, because if we keep going this route, I know since May, there's been a lot of, I don't call it controversy, but a lot of questions we need to answer and go back and forth, so I would
So-
like to somehow figure that out.
Yeah. Yes.
So I've requested to find out what the protocol is, because I don't believe that the Board of Selectmen should be getting town council's advice on open meeting laws. We have a responsibility to be aware of what the open meeting laws are, and to my knowledge, you're not supposed to access town council for that purpose. So I'd be interested to hear what the protocol is for when town council is accessed, and is there something in writing about that? Because I'm aware that in the past, when open meeting law violations have occurred, individuals were not permitted to consult with town council on that.
So I think, so there's no protocol as to when town council can be spoken to. It's at the direction of the chair. But, I mean, I can tell you, in every community I've worked in, the town council represents this board and the town. So if an open meeting law complaint is filed against this board, or any board of selectmen, they've always utilized town council to assist on that matter, in any community I've worked in. So this town doesn't have a process on when town council can be utilized. Again, it's at the direction of the chair. And that is the policy, and that's been the long-time policy in this community, and again, most communities, just for cost-saving measures.
Is that in writing somewhere? Was there ever a vote taken
Yeah,
about?
it's on our website. It's been, like I said, it's been a long-standing policy here, but there is a copy of it on our website, under the Board of Selectmen policies, I think.
Okay.
So that answers one of your questions from last week, as what's the policy when contacting town council? It goes through the chair.
Well, it doesn't really answer my question. I want to have a discussion of the policy, and that's why I requested to have it put on the agenda.
Conversation of the policy, like you want to change the existing policy?
No, I want to understand. Right now, can I call town council on my own?
No,
How come?
because the policy is that the chair talks to town council, and the members can ask the chair to
Right, so
contact
you
town
could ask the
council.
chair, and he could allow you to speak to
So
the chair.
everybody here who's ever had interactions with town council has always gone through the chair.
Always? I don't know, I've only been chair for 3 months, so I can't say always.
Okay. So permission needs to be requested of you, or advance notice needs to be requested of you?
Permission.
Okay, because that, again, the role of chair, if you look at the role, I don't see that under the role of chair.
I think that's just policy of the town, which again, Denise said.
So
on the
that's in
website.
writing? That's what it says? That it's permission of the chair?
No, look at it, it's on the website. If it's on the website, it's in writing.
I believe it says permission. But I actually, I don't know if it uses that exact word, but it says, anyone interested in contacting town council must either submit to the chair or the finance director their reason, and the chair will consider it, something to that effect.
Okay.
One reason, Mike, one reason that, if I'm correct, that no board member can talk directly to the town council was to control the spending of money and what have you. That's why it was to go through the chair. And if the chair said it was right for that person to talk to them directly, they could.
Right, I mean, usually it's, right, for cost saving as well as so that,
The same
they're
question's not
not
being asked
providing
by different
redundant
ways.
answers to different board members, so that it's all filtered through
Right.
one source, either the chair or then myself. It was the administrative assistant prior, and then the board changed that to myself, so it's the chairman or myself.
And the second part is, I know some time ago, we made you a head of legal, and that gives you the authority to talk to them as well.
Well, that was done when I was hired, they.
Right, that's what I'm saying,
right.
you were in the part of
But
legal.
even before that, when I was first hired, the chairman at the time submitted a letter to town council stating that when Nancy was retiring, she had the authority to speak to council. They bestowed that upon me because that position wasn't gonna be here. So even long before that.
Right.
That was my,
But my point I'm getting at is you're perfectly legal to do what you're doing, talking to town council. Okay.
and most times I'll, unless there's something, I always say to the chairman, is it okay if I call town council on X, or, there's really no reason for me to call unless,
And I know when I was the chairman in the past, I don't remember any board members ever talking directly to town council. I know they used to filter their questions through you, and you used to get them.
Yep.
Well, historically, I don't think that's always been the policy, so I'm interested in just seeing how that's come about.
Yeah, and like I said, I know it's been, I can certainly, I don't know where the policy is before. I can certainly get, town council, I mean, I've seen the prior invoices, and it was always either the chairman or, the administrative assistant, that was their liaison.
Ed?
But,
I know when I first got elected, we received a letter from the town council congratulating us on our election, and I'm paraphrasing, and then we had a conversation with him. He was here for some reason, and he introduced himself, and he said, remember, if you got any questions, give me a call. You call anytime, and somebody will get back to you. And it was, at that point, it was nothing as far as, I'm there to help you guys out. So call me whenever you need the help. Call on the weekends. We'll get right back to you. And at the point, it was nothing, he never mentioned anything at that time about going through the finance director or going through the chairman. And I know when Bill was the chairman, we probably had a couple questions that he contacted the town council on, but, he just made himself available that if he had any questions, to give him a call. That's all I have.
I would imagine you would, because it's all about billable hours, isn't it?
And that's the point of filtering it through one person, so the same question isn't asked 6 different times,
And to control the spending.
and control the spending as best we can.
So if I was the lawyer, I would encourage as many phone calls as I can get, because every phone call I can get is a billable hour.
So that policy became effective August 11th, 2014.
yes. Well, no, it was in place before they changed it to add me as the finance director and removed the administrative assistant. Nancy retired in September of 2014.
Back to the open meeting law complaint. What else do we need to do with this, Denise?
Well, you still need to vote on the actual Jeff and Maria's matter publicly, so
So someone needs to make a motion to,
pretty much exactly what took place, to not halt the August 16th event.
to not,
And going forward, same,
All
pretty
right.
similar, and going forward, they'd have to come before the zoning board and the board of selectmen and et cetera.
all right, so we need someone to make a motion to that effect.
So I'll make a
Bill, you want to
motion.
take a stab at that?
I'll take a stab at it. I make a motion that we allow Jeff and Maria's event that's planned for August 16th to take place in order to prevent any undue financial harm to come to this business, and with the understanding that he was given some kind of approval by someone on this board, and that we allow the event to go through with the understanding that unilateral approval on anything is no longer to be allowed, and that any further events of this nature need to come before this board and the zoning board for approval and ratification.
Okay, get a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion?
Could we reread the motion?
Make a motion that
You didn't write that down?
I only got partway through and
we
then you
allow
lost me.
Jeff and Maria to have their planned event on the 16th to,
You said to not cause them financial harm.
right,
That's as far as I got.
okay. And that in the future, no unilateral approval can be given by any member of this board or any other board, and that in the future, such events need to be approved and ratified by this board as well as the zoning board, so that we can avoid future confrontations of this nature, which use a lot of time and energy.
Any further discussion?
Point of
Don't
order.
seem to be add a bunch of value.
Point of order?
Point of order, Mr. Chairman. Too much verbiage in the motion that doesn't relate to the, exactly to the motion. It should be basically something simple as a motion made to approve of the event on the 16th, and that probably is all that needs to be in that particular motion.
I would agree, unfortunately, that it's complicated by someone gave an approval. That's where the complication comes in. That's where this whole ball of wax started. Okay, you get back to the root cause, we're not even having a discussion. We're not wasting this time and energy if someone, and I have to believe the business owners, I don't think they're gonna run with this and pluck this out of this rear end that they've got some kind of permission. It just doesn't make sense that someone's gonna put that kind of money and effort into anything without some kind of okey dokey by somebody. So I think it needs to be in there, so that this doesn't happen again.
Okay. Any further discussion?
I just want to make a comment. With all due respect, there's an allegation that they were given permission by a Board of Selectmen. I don't think that that's been confirmed, and Selectman Watson denied that that was the case. So I think we're operating on a premise that we don't know is accurate.
I don't know if we mentioned anybody by name, it just says a selectman.
Well, you asked him.
could be anybody.
You asked him directly at the meeting that we had on, I believe, September 5th or August 21st.
And he vehemently denied any such approval. So I don't know who it was. I'm just going by what the gentleman says, and to avoid any further conflicts of this nature, I think it ought to be understood.
I guess my question would be, could someone come to us and say an unidentified Board of Selectmen gave me permission, and would we give validity to that?
Well, I don't know if I'm gonna put this kind of time and money into it and not have any kind of approval by anybody. I don't think I'm doing it. And I guess we can really clear this all up. Is it possible to have the owner come in and talk to us? Set the cards right, throw them all on the table. Hey, let's get right to the bottom, right to the nitty-gritty. No more allegations, let's throw it all out there, let's have it all out there, put it on the air, let's put the laundry on the line.
Mr. Dunn?
Why don't we do this? Why don't we, I think it's been on the line, I think enough has been said. I think people watching know where we're at. Why don't we do this? Why don't we make a motion? I'll go with your motion, and we'll say that they gotta come before this board, the zoning board, and no other party can have input, period. Other than the zoning board or this board. And that, we're gonna,
I'll agree to that.
All right, so you have a friendly amendment. Do we have a final version of this motion now?
Was that an amendment?
Was that a friendly amendment? you
it's a
made?
friendly amendment.
Friendly man.
Okay.
I'll give you a minute, Denise.
I'm just trying to figure out what you're amending. Okay, so,
You don't,
okay. So maybe we just take out the middle part? To allow Jeff and Maria's planned event on August 16th to take place, to not cause them financial harm, and they will only seek proper approval from the entire Board of Selectmen and Zoning Board in the future? Does that
And
sound?
they must.
Must,
Just make the language tough.
okay, and must seek proper approval from the whole Board of Selectmen and Zoning Board. Is that what you were trying to friendly amend?
my head's spinning, but that's all right.
It's only 7:20. We got a long ways to go.
Okay, so I will just read it one more time, I think. The motion is to allow Jeff and Maria's planned event on August 16th to take place as to not cause them financial harm, and in the future, they must seek proper approval from the whole Board of Selectmen and the Zoning Board.
Okay. So that's a second.
Yes, Bill seconded it.
We had discussion. All those in favor?
Yes.
All those opposed? Or abstained? Well, that was fun. Moving on to medical cannabis cultivation, no dispensary discussion. Mr. O'Neill, it's all yours.
Great. I think the discussion needs to be had again to basically get rid of a lot of the misinformation, innuendo, hearsay, and get right down to the nitty-gritty facts. And the facts of the matter are, it's about money. And I pulled an interesting article online, and if please, I encourage you to read it. Senator Claire McCaskill, senator in Missouri, has, they have an ongoing investigation into the opioid epidemic in the states right now. And interestingly enough, the epidemic seems to be started by the pharmaceutical companies themselves. I hate to tell you folks, but we've been shamed. We've been bamboozled. We've been hoodwinked. We've been bought and sold a bill of goods that does not exist. OxyContin is making money for Purdue Pharmaceutical hand over fist in the excess of $24 billion since their inception. Public health records now indicate, through a very strenuous investigation by our senators, have found that these companies for years and years and years have been lying to the American public on their potency. These were basically drugs, OxyContin, Zipsis, the very powerful drugs that were intended for end-of-life care. They weren't intended to be distributed for every little pain and ache you had. They also misled the general public by claiming that these were 12-hour pain relief. Fax and emails from these drug companies now reveal that these were lies. These folks are about money, and that's all they're about. And if you're burying your sons and daughters, your husbands, your wives, your uncles, your aunts, because they've overdosed on some of these drugs, it's a sad state of affair. But until we get angry enough, this isn't going to change. Now, I'd like to remind everybody that there are a few facts. One is, according to WHO, the World Health Organization, and the CDC, Center for Disease Control here in the United States, There has never been one clinically documented case of a marijuana overdose. Not one. However, we have overdoses by the minute on these hard opioids that they need to be eradicated. They're meant for end-of-life patients. They're meant for terminally ill patients that will never see the outside of a hospital. That's what their intent were. But everybody's making money, and so there's a real reluctance to bring medical marijuana to the mainstream, and for obvious reasons. If you're making $24 billion, the last thing you want is somebody to plant a couple of seeds in their backyard and have their own cure. Well, there goes their revenue stream. But it's not only about big pharmaceuticals. Everybody has a hand in this. Directly from the SEC notes from a drug treatment center, they believe that any movement toward legalization of marijuana would significantly harm their revenue because they'd have less patients in the stream. Again, it's about revenue. It's not about helping anybody. The time has come really for people to start opening their eyes and doing their own research and not be persuaded by the fear tactics that some of us have used here in the past. The real fear is right here. It's these opiates. They're killing your kids. They're killing your kids. We need to find an alternative, and medical marijuana is one of the alternatives. In the past couple of months, it's touched me personally. I have a very good friend I grew up next door to. He was arguably one of the 10 top athletes growing up in Everett. And now he suffers terribly from Parkinson's disease. And he's told me that the only real relief he can get is from a cannabis extract. It's a cannabis oil. It does not in any way cause any, how should I say, doesn't get you high. But what it does for him is it allows him to loosen up and to move his muscles and to speak without this drag on his language. I've talked to, I've reached out to the Chief Gillen and asked him over the last 6, 12, and 18 months, how many DWIs, and I'm going to say DWI instead of DUI because driving while impaired is what I'm looking for. I was informed that over the last 18 months they've made 8 arrests, 0 for marijuana. Every arrest was alcohol related. Now, if you're really concerned about public safety, then we should talk about closing down the liquor stores in this town. We ought to talk about closing down or rescinding all the liquor licenses for the establishments that sell alcohol in this town. Because the fact is, alcohol kills, on average, 6 people will overdose a day in America on alcohol. And yet we do nothing about it. I've also reached out to the chief about Georgetown. I wish our friend was here because he likes to talk about that. I was interested because they've had the facility down in Georgetown for how long? Do you know, Mr. Chair?
I think 2 years.
2 years. And I was
least.
interested in crime statistics in Georgetown. You know, had the Bloods and Crips moved in yet? MI-13 got a foothold in Georgetown. And I was surprised to find that there was no increase in crime at all. Matter of fact, it was kind of flat. So there's a lot of misinformation. There's a lot of xenophobia. People naturally afraid of what they don't understand. And to some extent, I get it. But the time has come now for us to get over that, some of that fear. The fear that you should have is the fear that your kids are going to get a hold of these drugs, and you're going to be burying them tomorrow. And that's not a joke, folks. That's real. My daughter's only been out of school 7 years. She's buried 8 of her friends already. Overdose, opium, or opioids, heroin, fentanyl. No marijuana, folks. Sorry. And we're talking about just a cultivation center. No dispensary, no recreational use. I'm not for that either. But what I'm being told is it's the supply side. These folks are struggling with something that will help them. And for some of them, this is the answer. But for most, the supply is so limited that they're not able to get what they need to help them. And I think the time is right. I think we should be on the forefront of this. I think this takes the opioid addiction problem head-on with an alternative, a safe alternative, because these drugs, my friends, are not safe. They have never been safe. They're not safe yesterday, they're not safe tomorrow. And if you think they're safe, you're fooling yourselves, you really are. And I think this discussion needs to be pushed down the road. It needs to be a serious discussion. It needs to be a thoughtful discussion, and it needs to be a discussion filled with facts, not fiction, not fear, not innuendo, not hearsay, facts. And the facts are very clear. The facts are that medical marijuana is a much safer alternative than the drugs these pushers, and I don't want to say pharmaceutical companies anymore because they're drug pushers. They're making us addicted. They're addicting the entire country. And it's a sad, sad state of affairs. And if we don't do something about it soon, we're going to be burying more and more and more of our young each and every day. And I, for one, I can't do that anymore.
All set? For now?
I think so. I know it's very passionate to me, so it's
No, I-
sometimes difficult to talk about because now it's touched me personally.
Well, as you know, I got 2 young kids too, so I don't want them getting involved in any of that stuff, and it scares me.
It scares the hell out of me. I'll be honest with you, it scares the heck out of me.
Ed, you wanted to make a comment?
Yes. My colleague looking for facts, and I'll give you some facts. I've done a little research on this. And
Shoot.
the Federal Drug Administration has not approved marijuana as a safe and effective drug. The FDA's role in the regulation of drugs, including marijuana, also includes review of applications to market drugs to determine whether proposed drug products are safe and effective for their intended indications. Without this review, the FDA cannot determine whether a drug product is safe and effective. It also cannot ensure that a drug product meets appropriate quality standards. The lack of FDA approval and oversight means that the purity and potency of the drug may vary considerably. I also had conversation with a spokesman for a college in Boston to find out how they're dealing with the marijuana issue. And the answer was pretty straightforward. It is a violation of the code of conduct to consume marijuana in any form, for any reason, on school property or at a school activity. Doing so can lead to getting kicked out of the dorms or the school entirely. The college has to comply with federal law because they receive federal funds. The student could end up losing his housing, his federal student loans, or even his entire education, caught using drugs on campus. And try flying to board an airplane with marijuana for any purpose. The TSA has stated that possession of marijuana, even medical marijuana, is illegal under federal law, and that it will refer passengers traveling with marijuana, well, even though it's recreational or medical, to law enforcement authorities. And I don't think we should be doing anything that creates a greater chance for people to become addicted. And I can't support an action that that could increase the possibility that someone becomes addicted to any kind of a drug. Thank you.
Yeah. The FDA said this stuff is safe. Who wants to come with me to the cemetery? I'll show you how safe these are. The FDA is a joke, an absolute joke. To say that marijuana is unsafe, and they continually, without hesitation, promote these kind of drugs, these are safe? Clinically documented cases of marijuana overdose, 0. That's the fact. Clinically documented cases of overdoses by opioids, uncalculable right now. And these are safe, according to the FDA? According to me, the FDA ought to be broken up today, because that's the biggest joke in the world.
I think you could add
They approve-
cigarettes and alcohol. to
I
being
think
safe.
you could, but the FDA approves these as safe? What's so safe about this? What's so safe about kids dropping dead left and right in the street? What's so safe about the drugs you hear advertised at night on the TV? Oh yeah, you'll get some relief from your diabetes, but you could suffer from heart failure, stroke, this, that. Those are safe? Who's doing the test on this? Mary Poppins? I mean, this is a joke. It's literally a joke. I can't even begin to laugh hard enough that the FDA could classify marijuana as an unsafe drug when they've literally passed death sentences on the entire country with they're promoting the safe, these drugs as being safe. They're the biggest joke walking. There's nothing safe about these drugs they've approved. Please.
Okay.
Then?
So, I would like to take this in some bits and pieces. So, if I read tonight's agenda, it says medical cannabis cultivation, no dispensary discussion. I would like to talk about that, and I'd like to make a motion that we don't have a dispensary in Groveland, and that we resolve that. Then we turn around, and if you'd like to turn around, and we'll have a conversation down the road to do something else, but I don't think a dispensary is the right thing for Groveland. I don't,
I agree with you.
okay? I will personally say, like you and everyone else has said, I've had people with opioids pass away. It was a true friend of mine. Yes, yes, people are, you know, the government and what have you. There was a thing on Channel 5 the other night, a big thing about opioids and how it's out of control. Channel 5 put a big thing on it, how they're trying to help conquer it. I agree 100%, 100%. We need to do something about it.
Then give
Can
me
we
the
do about,
alternative.
can we, as a selectman, we could probably do some positive steps toward that or whatever, but until society changes, until society realizes that we have an opioid problem, that's where we have to conquer that one. As far as the town of Groveland goes, we need to be, like you said, straight up, say it the way it is, whatever. You want marijuana, you don't want marijuana, period. And we don't need to scare the town people into anything. Let the town people say what they have to say. I agree, 100%. So tonight, what I read on the agenda, I would like to make a motion that we have no dispensaries in the town of Groveland, and if I can make a motion.
All right, we have a motion. You have a second?
I second that.
Any further discussion?
I'd like to add an amendment to that.
Friendly amendment by Ed?
Friendly amendment. No dispensaries. Also adding, no retail sales, no testing, and no social clubs in the town of Groveland.
All right, we have a friendly amendment.
Can we even do that?
So, I mean, you can vote however you'd like. It still requires the process that I gave the board after either the prior meeting or 2 meetings ago, that it requires town meeting, it requires a vote of the town because recreational marijuana is going to happen. So there's steps that the town would need to take in order to avoid that. So you can all vote as yourself that that's the position you take, but then there are things that are gonna have to be
All
done.
right, so I drop my motion, and I'll turn around and make a new motion.
Well, we have to,
Yeah, you have to act on that. So I just,
Well, you said I can't do a motion.
no, you can take a motion, but it really,
If it's only between this board and us, it's a waste of
right,
time.
it,
It's a
there
waste of
needs to
time.
be a whole process
It's a
in
waste
order
of
to
time.
specifically
So I'll drop
prohibit
my
certain
motion.
things.
I'll drop my motion. And I'll try doing it again.
now or at another meeting? I'm just asking, because I
I'd
don't
like
know.
to do it now.
All right, do it,
I'll
fine.
do it now. I would like to turn around and make a motion that we put on the Springtown ballot, that we have on the ballot, something put on there that we do not have a dispensary in the town of Groveland. If that's what we need to do,
And-
involve all the people.
So are you gonna add Ed's items to that motion?
That was Ed's, part of his motion, so I'm not gonna,
I'd like to, I'd like to word it something to the effect, ban all recreational and medical marijuana cultivation, manufacture, testing, retail sales, and social clubs in the town of Groveland.
All right, so we have a motion. Do we have a second? Second. Further discussion, Mr. O'Neill, did you,
I'm sorry. So is, I'm just not trying to follow. Was that a motion to Bill's motion, Ed, or are you just, I'm just trying to figure out what I'm writing
No,
down.
no, but I stated that before it was seconded.
Right.
So we'd have to act on
Right,
Bill's
so
motion.
you're asking to amend the motion? To add
I think
everything,
you are,
pretty
yeah,
much?
you're.
I'll ask, yeah, okay, I'll ask
But then Bill made a second
to amend the motion to state, ban all recreational and medical marijuana, cultivation, manufacture, testing, retail sales, and social clubs in the town of Groveland.
So you're making an additional motion?
I think he's
An
adding
amendment to the.
Okay.
amendment to the Bill's motion.
So you need to vote on the amendment to add, pretty much ban everything that he just identified.
All right, so we need to take a vote on Ed's amendment to Bill's motion. All those in favor?
Any discussion?
We can have more discussion, sure. Go ahead, no, go ahead.
I can't support such a wide-ranging prohibition, if that's what we want to call it. To eliminate the test and the cultivation eliminates the opportunity to explore this. So we're left with the same thing. Just hand out some more pills and watch kids drop dead. It's not my idea of a solution. That's same old, same old. I don't want to go to any more funerals. I'm tired of going to funerals for people that are younger than me by a significant number of years. So what that motion does is throw us back into the dark ages. We don't want to see this stuff. No, it's bad, evil. Dispensaries are not the same as cultivation. And they should not, I don't believe they should be in the same argument. I'm all in favor of banning dispensaries of any kind in Groveland.
Which, you should probably clarify, dispensary means selling the product in Groveland.
Correct.
Not cultivating it and selling the product somewhere else. Right?
Correct.
Okay.
Liquor store for marijuana. Let's call it what it is, right?
Okay.
The liquor store. But to stop the advancement and the what do I say? The exploration is just, in my opinion, it's foolish, because we've seen what the alternatives do. They just bury people.
Mike, can I talk to Bill?
Yeah, yeah.
I'll go through the chair to Bill. Bill,
Yes,
okay, see if you can work this through with me.
I'll try.
I agree 100% about the whole opioids. Bottom line in the town of Groveland is who has the last say to say if medical marijuana, a dispensary, or anything. I think what I heard from Denise is the town people.
It's a town.
What's that?
No, dispensaries only is a town.
No, if I,
No?
All of
now
it
I'm
is a
getting,
town.
right, so I think, Bill, you're asking who can approve it? It's this board can approve it currently. In order to prohibit, it requires a ballot question and a town meeting vote because the town voted in favor of it.
The
Both
town
medical
they did
and
vote in favor,
recreational.
Or they voted against it?
No, no, they voted in
Right.
favor of the initial ballot questions, making medical marijuana legal
The
and
last time you
recreational
voted, the
marijuana.
last- in-
When you asked the question this past spring, if they would like to see a medical marijuana cultivation center in town, that failed.
It was non-binding.
But that was non-binding. It still comes to this board to make the
Binding and not
decision.
binding, I don't like that argument. Binding and not binding, it's still the people spoke. That's how I look at it, okay? They spoke,
But you
okay?
could flip that over, if it was non-binding and the people spoke and somebody on the board didn't like it, they could say, well, it's non-binding.
How many votes were there?
I don't know. I'd
If I
have to
recall,
look.
755?
Honestly, I have no idea. I'd
I'm pretty
have to
sure.
look it up.
That doesn't even make it, doesn't
Well,
make it.
if we're gonna go back to the argument again with me, if you're gonna go back to the argument with me and say it's part of this board, I'm gonna go back and say one more time. Until someone sits in front of me, until someone says to me what it's all about, what we're gonna make for a dollar amount, and all that, I'm not on board with it. And I understand, Bill, what you said is, you said, we
You
have to
don't-
get to the point, let me talk. We have to get to the point to okay this, to get it in here. But I don't wanna okay something and then turn around, and what you just said a minute ago, the opioids are out of control. Everything's out of control, everyone's on, I wanna have control. Control to me would be to have them people sit in front of me, to know I'm making a dollar amount off them every year for 5 years, 10 years, or whatever, number one. And number two, have control on what they can do and what they can't do. I'm good with that. I've said it, I'll say it again. I'm not good with me, I'm only speaking for me, to say yes to this stuff until I've had that conversation. Now, if you want to bring someone before me and have a hypothetical conversation in here, what they can possibly do, I might feel better, but I just don't feel, I don't want to give my town the same situation the opioids have done to the country. I want to have control.
So,
But the
no
point-
no
one second,
disrespect.
One second, the point back, though, limiting and putting restraints on all these motions, and you can't do this, this, limits the conversation to even have that. So, no dispensary means no dispensary, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, why not have some more people come in where we can have a factual conversation about.
Intelligent.
Right, about what it means, what the benefits are, what even the risks are. Nothing's gonna come in here without this board's approval or disapproval. So whether we vote on anything tonight is irrelevant. We should have companies come in and tell us what they think. We should have experts come in if it has to go that deep. I mean, I've talked with multiple people. I've actually been to the FDA in DC and talked to them directly about this stuff. So the state says one thing, the feds say another thing. We should have more of a conversation and not limit it to on Sundays at 3 o'clock only. Bill?
With all due respect, Selectman Dunn, you've boiled it down to money, again. What are these people gonna, money, money. I don't care about the money. There's billions of dollars in here, billions, billions and billions and billions. What has it done for us? It's done nothing for us.
So
It's
should
not
they-
about the money. It's about, it's time to do things right just because it's the right thing to do. It's not about the money. This is about the money. This is about the money. Keeping it out of the mainstream is about the money. It keeps the revenue stream for these addiction centers and these rehab centers just keep coming and coming and coming. That's about the money. These folks don't care about the money. They don't care. Actually, that's all they do. That's all they care about is the money. If they bury your daughter tomorrow, your son, they don't care.
Okay, there's
They've
two-
made more money.
Right, so there's two sides to the coin, Bill. One side,
He's talking.
one side to the coin would be, I'm talking money, not to try and say money to make their end grow bigger. I'm talking, if we're gonna have this in the town of Groveland, I want the town of Groveland to benefit from it. Okay, so if we're gonna bring a business into Groveland, forget cannabis, let's just talk about any business that's gonna come in. I wanna get the best deal I can for the town of Groveland, so whatever we can get, okay? That's all I'm talking, I'm not trying to say I wanna make cannabis and make this thing out of control for money, I'm not. I want Groveland, if this was what was gonna come to Groveland, I want them to get the best deal. They're right over 95 right now, and I heard only some numbers, Georgetown's getting $1 million, $2 million a year, whatever. So if they're getting it, if we're gonna do it, if the people in town of Groveland have the stomach for this, then I wanna sell them the best deal we can get, that's all I'm saying. I agree, I'm not trying to say that I'm doing this to make this whole thing out of control and throwing I guess I'm,
No, I know what you're saying.
I know what you're saying, and I understand your point, but here's the point for me. Here's our Groveland benefits. We keep one more kid out of the cemetery. We give them an
I-
alternative to some of these hard drugs
Right.
that they may benefit from.
I
So
agree
it's
with you
not
100%.
about money, it's
I
about
agree.
life.
On that end of it, I agree 100%. I
So
have a daughter
then
that's
allow the conversation to go through.
I have a daughter that's a nurse. I've had these conversations with her, et cetera, et cetera. I'm on camera, I don't care, I say what I say. I had a friend of mine that I never knew addiction. And listen, I'm an alcoholic. I don't care, everyone can know it. I never knew addiction until I knew this good friend of mine was on heroin, okay? He could not get off of heroin because his addiction in his body would not let him get off. I was lucky to stop drinking because I didn't have that embedded addiction. He had that embedded addiction that his body just had to have that. That was a disease in his body that he could not fight. It's the disease part of it. So this is pretty complicated. We can spend all night on this. I'm talking about the business end of it right now. That's then I'm talking about. But I'm only gonna go back to what I said. What was on the agenda, Mike just said, hey, you wanna bring these people in, have more conversation? Okay, let's be open, honest, and upfront. Bring the people in. I wanna have the town people come in, let them sit in the audience, let them all have their input. Have some meetings on it, I guess. I mean, I'm only reading what the agenda said. No, where the heck is it?
No dispensaries.
No dispensaries. I'll tell you right now, I'm gonna fight it to the end, because I will not vote to have a dispensary here in the town.
I'm
I
in
won't.
He's already
100%
said that
agreement with
3 or
you.
4 times.
100% agreement with you.
Just before I let Lisa talk, so as far as addiction that you said about your friend and
Yep.
that he had to have it, you can say the same thing about nicotine and cigarettes.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
And alcohol.
And back to the business side of it, from what I understand, what the state's talking about, and even coming down from the Fed side, the longer you go, the less viable the business would be, because you're gonna be restricted on what can be offered to you as a subsidy for coming to town. It won't be like when we were talking about it 2 years ago, where you can pretty much set your own deal. Either the business takes it or leave it.
Right.
The state's gonna mandate what you can and can't do, I believe. Lisa?
So I just wanted to respond to a few things. So one is the question that was asked of Chief Gilland. I don't think that that's an accurate reflection, because right now there is no mechanism to test for impaired driving with marijuana. So we really don't know if somebody's operating impaired with marijuana, because there isn't a mechanism to test for that. With regard to the FDA and these drugs, I agree that they're very unsafe when abused, but if the drugs are taken according to the prescriptions and as prescribed, they are safe. They're just not safe when they're abused or taken outside of those prescriptions. When we talk about marijuana as an alternative, I mean, I guess my feeling is I work with people that suffer with substance use disorders every single day, and I've been doing this for 22 years. And none of the people that are addicted to heroin or cocaine or amphetamines started out with those drugs. They all started with marijuana. I'm not in support of a community that has 7,000 people being one of the sites for any type of marijuana dispensary or grow facility. I just don't think that we need to take that on. And I think that we've received a lot of feedback from voters that they're not in support of it either.
So the DWIs that were recorded by the police in this town, when they blow into that thing and it says alcohol is 1.7, we can't rely on that?
There's no mechanism to test for marijuana intoxication or for being under the influence of marijuana. There's no testing mechanism for that.
I actually think
I
there
think they
may
get
be,
to
we just are not
training.
trained for
There
it.
is,
Yeah.
there
I
is.
think
Vermont
there's a
does it.
training program.
It's called
that-
drug recognition expert,
Yes.
and we don't have anybody in Groveland
Right,
that does
so
it.
there is a training.
So
We're
what I'm
just
saying
not-
is there's no mechanism in this town to measure whether somebody's intoxicated with
Yes.
marijuana. That's a fact.
Right, no, I was just clarifying that there is a mechanism, we just are not prepared for it here.
That is a fact. In order to get pulled over, you must have been doing something erratic in order to draw the policeman's attention to you. And when these folks were pulled over, they were cited for alcohol. So I guess I'm struggling to find, if no one was pulled over for driving erratically or maybe they were, maybe they blew a zero. I'm not able to connect the dots here. Now, as far as, I will not, I can't obviously speak to your experience with the folks you work with, but I highly doubt that the first drug that these people took was marijuana. Peel back the layers of the onion, and I bet you it was a beer. I bet you it was a glass of wine. I bet you it was some form of alcohol. Nobody that I know of in my 56 years of existence on this planet Earth has ever started with marijuana. It's always dad's beer, mom's wine, dad's hard liquor. That's where most of the people start. And because alcohol is such an addictive drug, where marijuana isn't, and that's in every medical journal you read, it's not. Alcohol has six times the addictive properties of marijuana. And that's just a drop in the bucket compared to some of these opioids. And again, you seem to be buying into the same kind of garbage that Big Pharma wants you to believe, that their drugs are safe. It's garbage. I encourage you to read it. It's from their emails. There's excerpts from their emails that they knew these drugs were not safe, but they've been peddling them off to the American public like candy. And we've been buying it hook, line, and sinker. And unfortunately, so have a lot of these kids that we've been burying lately. So no, I don't buy your argument at all. I grew up on the streets. I've lived too long. The dots don't connect.
So we have a motion.
I'm gonna drop my motion and do something different.
Well, you're voting, right now you've been discussing Ed's amendment. So that's what the discussion has been on.
All right, so let's take a vote on Ed's amendment.
So the amendment is to ban, and I think I worded it a little differently, but I think I got everything in. To ban all marijuana cultivation, testing, medical cannabis, social clubs, recreation, and dispensaries.
All right.
Is that everything?
I can restate it again.
Yeah, I don't know if I think I got everything, but,
To ban all recreational and medical marijuana, cultivation, manufacture, testing, retail sales, and social clubs in the town of Groveland.
okay, so that's what you've been discussing.
Okay. So let's take a vote. All those in favor?
Yes.
All those opposed?
All right, so that's on the amendment. Now you need to vote on the actual motion.
And what were you talking about?
He
You were
withdrew
gonna
it.
drop something?
But you were still voting on an amendment to the motion.
I
You
just said
couldn't
no
withdraw the
dispensaries.
motion with the
I
amendment
said
on
no
the floor.
dispensaries.
But did you withdraw that?
Well, now we're back on the Bill's motion that
You wanted
included
to add it to the
Ed's
spring
amendment.
ballot, right.
Well, which one are you talking about? The spring ballot or no dispensaries?
No dispensaries, period. Because you have to come before this board to be,
Right, that's what we were talking about. No matter what, you have to come to get approval
Right.
here anyway. So
Right, so it's gonna
did that
start here.
amendment that we just passed
pretty much covered it.
add to, now we gotta pass Bill's motion?
Right, so now Bill's motion is to ban everything, because that's the amendment that you just approved.
Right.
So now that's the motion on the floor, because
Right,
that was
so
the
now we gotta
amendment.
vote on that.
To add to the spring ballot, to ban all Ed's items.
All right, so let's take a vote.
Marijuana cultivation, recreation, testing, medical
Wait a minute,
cannabis,
this is-
social, retail sales, clubs, manufacturing.
Because you had a motion.
And retail sales in the town of
We had to vote
Groveland.
on that. Now we're going
So
back
are
to
we
your
talking
motion.
spring ballot with this right now?
That was your original motion.
Okay, so,
To add to the spring ballot to not have dispensaries or recreational marijuana. Then the amendment took place, which is now passed. So now you're voting on to put on the spring ballot to not have anything, is
Which
what the
was
motion
Bill-
is.
Which was Ed's amendment. So now we're voting on,
So now you're voting to put on the spring ballot to not have any marijuana in town, period.
we've already voted on it.
Medical,
No, now we're gonna vote
dispensaries,
again, because
retail
that was your
sales,
motion.
testing,
Right.
cultivation, nothing.
All right.
That's what
Okay.
the vote is now on the floor.
Okay,
so let's take a vote. All those in favor?
Yes.
All those opposed?
Shit, disgusted.
that was disappointing. Moving on.
So if I may though, so there are steps that the board needs to take based on the information that I provided. So that's stuff that you will need to discuss and over the next few months to have that ballot question. And
Right.
vote in town meeting vote.
Right, so the bottom line is the town people got their say.
Well, yes and no, that's
Yes
the
and no.
problem.
No, they don't.
Is they voted in
They've
favor
never
of
been-
recreational, which is why now you need to go back to the ballot for that
They
piece.
they don't have a say at all anymore.
Well, they are getting a say. They're going to get a say when they have this vote.
Right, no, exactly. But that's why they have to, it has to go back to the ballot.
I think what we just did here is gonna be so confusing on the ballot that no one's gonna know.
Well, and I don't know that you can actually, that's something that we'll have to get from the state. I don't know that you can outlaw it altogether.
Especially
I don't know what the changes that have come down
A
if
month
you
and a half
have,
from now, no one's gonna know what they're looking at.
because our bylaws allow medical marijuana, so you may have to have a new plan, a zoning bylaw that addresses that. So there's
Yeah.
different steps. I don't know if that's illegal or not to fully outlaw it. We'd have to get the state to weigh in on their new policies that they've put into place.
I don't think it's illegal because other communities have done it.
But I think they had moratoriums that were not allowed, so you can only have a moratorium for so long. And with the recreational that passed, I think there's a timeline that those have to expire by. So it depends if this is an outright ban or if this is a moratorium for a period of time. That's what we need to find out, what we can actually do to limit marijuana in town.
All right, let's move on. Now we have the Elm Park Square Committee discussion. I don't know what we're talking about, so it's an agenda item. What do we,
I forwarded Denise a list of 8 names, which is more than the 7 that was initially proposed to be charged with that task. So the board needs to discuss, what do we do with the fact that we have 8? My proposal would be that we have that group of 8 meet and determine who's going to be the 7 voting members and bring that back to the board.
How was all this compiled?
We had a message on our website to submit letters of interest.
Directly to the selectmen?
No, it was me, because I was the person that was going to be on the committee, and I asked for it to be directed to me.
didn't we vote you to be a liaison? Was that
We
what
can
that
go
was?
back and look at the meeting minutes, but I asked to be directly notified. I asked people to directly send me their information. I guess I don't see why that's an issue.
Well, I think we voted you to be the liaison, which is for you to attend the meetings, and then report back to the board on what's transpired, not to be the point person for the town square committee, I believe.
So
I
can you
gotta
tell me
look
what the
back.
difference is between those two things?
Well, one's a member and one's a liaison. Now, either the board, and I don't recall the actual verbiage, maybe someone else remembers, but the one would be voted as a member of that 7-person panel from this board, and one would be just a liaison to report back as a point person from that committee to the board. So instead of having the committee come in every time to talk to us, that liaison would liaise between the board and the subcommittee.
So I don't view myself as a member, I view myself as a liaison, not a member.
But as a liaison, the applications and the information would normally not go to you or an individual board member. They would all go to Denise, as they have been for any other appointment, and then disseminated to the board at the same time, not filtered through one board member.
Is that a rule that's in place?
I don't know, that's been the way it's been for, I don't know, probably since I was 10 years old. Lisa, Denise, is that usually what happens? When anybody like, we appointed 2 people tonight, Lauren and Michael, to the Recreation Committee and Open Space and Trails Committee. They did not go to a board member, they went to Denise, who then filtered that in through correspondence to the board as part of the Board of Selectmen meeting correspondence.
So when we talk about a waste of time, I'm certainly willing to reach out to each of these individuals and ask them to send something to Denise. And that will resolve the issue, but I don't understand why this is being made an issue.
Well, the issue is, we don't know whose information is coming from where. If the information goes to Denise and then she submits it to the board, it's being filtered by Denise, who is not a member of the board.
So are you saying that you don't trust that?
I'm just saying what the policy and the process has been
No,
for
there is no
everything else,
policy.
right?
I don't
Well,
see
the
anything in
process
writing.
is right here. It's
Show me the
Denise-
policy.
The process is that these people submit their application to Denise for whatever they want to volunteer for, and then Denise submits that information to us. It's with every other appointment we have done in the 2 years plus I've been here.
Okay.
Why is this any different?
I just want to see where that is in writing.
Bill?
Could we have the people put the names, like, onto a, sure, cover letter and have
Well,
them
we usually
submit a
require a
name?
letter of interest, so
And
that's what I
then we
would
can go
provide.
through the 7 people and come up
Sure.
with a list?
Yeah.
Well, they would normally submit an interest with their qualifications or background
Yeah, something
to
like that, yeah.
Denise, and then all that information would come
Sure.
over like this has done with the
So
2
Lisa
people we had tonight.
Lisa was the one that got the 7 people, 8 people, whatever it is, and now she can ask them, give me it on a piece of paper, blah, 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 send it in, and we can talk about it as an agenda item.
And I do have some, because initially I got a few, which I forwarded to Lisa, so.
But I think it would be fair to have all 7 or 8 of them in front of us to discuss them. We can go through them and discuss them. Wouldn't that be the fairest way?
However.
I don't know.
if you
I don't know.
want. If you want them all as appointments and you
Unless
would
you have
go
to have
through
one
and
as
appoint
an,
7.
unless you have one as an alternate, I don't know. I mean, I'd rather see what I have in front of me to, and what qualifications they have, et cetera, et cetera.
So you said you got a couple, but how come only a couple?
A couple people sent them to me, and then I forwarded them off to Lisa. So,
Was there a change in process in that time?
As I said, I asked for them to be forwarded to me. That was what happened.
so I guess the discussion is, how do you want to handle the fact that 8 people have applied for 7 spots? Is that correct, Lisa? That's the basis of the discussion before you all.
Well, I would say that they should submit some kind of letter of interest and qualifications so we can review it before a meeting, like we do with any other appointment.
But then, I guess my question is, then am I listing 8 people for appointment, and you're choosing 7 of them? Are you gonna have a follow-up discussion? How are you then gonna figure out which 7 to appoint? By another discussion after their letters?
Well,
Because they still will need to be formally appointed by this
Right.
board, 7
Right.
people,
Sounds reasonable.
which,
Bring us the
Perhaps-
names and we'll have discussion.
Perhaps the best way to do this is to look back in those minutes on the particular meeting that we had asked Lisa to be the point person or what have you, and see how things were worded, and just look back we don't have it in these, in our packet here tonight. But that shouldn't take too long to look back and see what, it was my recollection that they were supposed to get in touch with Lisa with their interest on getting on this committee, and I think that was my recollection, that was the charge from the Board of Selectmen. And that's probably why you forwarded that information to her. Did you remember what meeting that was at, that we could quickly look that up?
I don't, but if it's not in your packet, then it must have been the meeting August 7th? Would have been the prior meeting, if it's not the 21st or the
yeah, it would have been the 7th.
the 5th. Yes, but I think the end answer is still the same. Even if they were to go to Lisa, it's still the Board of Selectmen has to make appointments. So how would you like to handle 8 recommendations for 7 spots?
Well, are we assuming that everyone listed here is going to be appointed?
Well, they can't be, because
Well, I
there are
mean,
8 people.
so there's 8 people, so what if we decide that only 5 are qualified to sit on that committee, right? And there's still 2 openings, hypothetically. So, yeah, I think we should have them come in and do them one at a time. Anybody else want to make a motion on how we treat the,
So I have the charge, if anybody wants me to read it.
Go ahead.
Charge of the committee. The committee will consist of 7 members. Selectwoman Carpenter made a motion that the BOS charge a committee to fact-find and explore the viability of the property located at 299 to 301 Main Street for recommendations for the use of that space. And that was the motion.
So the committee, once formed, has a charge, but there's no charge by this board authorizing any board member's collection of this data.
I think the end result is still the same. There's still 8 people interested.
So I would just state that I wouldn't want anyone excluded. You know, there's been an ongoing discussion about the difficulty of getting volunteers, and I think if people are volunteering and they want to be part of it, everybody should have an opportunity. Now, we may need to decide, or the group could decide amongst themselves, maybe everybody's not a voting member, but I think anybody that wants to participate should be permitted to participate.
Because they put their name forward as a volunteer?
Yes. So again, it doesn't necessarily give them the right to vote, but it gives them a right to be part of the committee and the discussions, as would anybody who can attend those meetings as well. But I don't think anybody should be specifically excluded, because it means that basically one person is not going to be a voting member. But I think
But that's the charge of the board, is to appoint or not appoint a person for whatever reason. And as I think Mr. Watson said last year, we don't need to provide a reason to approve or deny an appointment. That's why people are brought to us to be either appointed or denied appointment based on a reason or non-given reason.
And if that's the position that you take, then that's fine, that's your position.
So we'll go back to it. I think that we need to bring in everyone individually and appoint or not appoint, either based on a reason or not reason.
So if that's the case,
I mean, we can vote on how we look at appointing members. I mean, that's just my opinion.
well, but I'm just, so, to that answer, if that's the case, am I listing them on an agenda, and then in what order? Because if you're gonna just go to the first 7, I don't want, am I randomly picking the 8 names on how they appear on an agenda, or do you wanna have that discussion
I would state that,
beforehand?
it's not in order of listed attendee. It's just, these are the people who are interested in volunteering that may or may not be appointed.
How
Not,
many,
good.
Okay,
how many members of this board?
There's 7
7.
members, but there's 8
7.
people that.
Okay, so we get 7 names, who cares what order they're in, they come in.
but you have 8
We have
names.
8 names, sorry.
Okay.
Stand to be corrected. 8 names come in. They come in with a piece of paper stating their criteria, what they can do, what they know, blah, blah, blah. We go through them. If you want to do, each one of us can pull the ones we want and do it by ballot, I don't know, however you want to do it. And then the ones that are, the 1 or 2 that might be left over, they want to serve on the board, may not be eligible to vote or whatever, be on the board, but they can still go in there, they can still participate in whatever they want. But I mean, we may get someone in that we don't like their criteria, or they don't have the right criteria. I may not want them.
Agreed.
I don't want to throw them out. So,
Do you like to comment, Mike?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, just a question. I don't know why we care whether there's 7, 6, 8, 10, or whatever. The fact that we've got 8 volunteers to be on that board, I would suggest take all 8, or, look at all 8 and appoint up to 8, because there's gonna be plenty of work to do, and the more people that can do it, the better off.
Well, we have 8, but I think the charge was for a number of 7 that you had input into.
That was just picked out of the air, kind of.
Right, but what if we have someone who wants to volunteer who has no experience in doing anything in town? Do we just put, well, maybe, but do we just put them on there because they volunteered?
Yeah, in a case like this, it
Can
might.
you go back up to the microphone?
Oh, I'm sorry. In a case like that, it's actually a good place to have somebody on a board that they don't know anything about, because there's not a real lot of fixed, knowledge. Broad knowledge is more valuable on a board like that. And also, it's a good learning experience. If you've never been on any other board and you're interested in being on it, you can learn from the other people that are on that board. So personally, I'd say, go with who you've got.
All right, so someone make a motion on how we proceed with the 8 applicants for the Town Square Committee?
I'll make a motion. Make a motion that we accept the 8 people that have put their name forward with a application of qualifications submitted before the board. We will review it And at that point in time, we can see what their qualifications are, and
So you want to review everyone's application and then appoint at the next meeting? Is that the idea?
And, I'm sorry, are you asking to increase the board to 8 because you want to accept all 8? That's the way it sounded. I just want
Or
to
have
know
an
if that's what you're saying.
I think that you could, let's just leave it at the 7 where we started, let's
Okay.
not make it more confusing. Leave it, and we can always have an alternate, or we can always have that person come in and whatever, let's,
So out of the 8 people who expressed interest, you want to appoint the 7-member board that we originally created?
I'm sure
Is
that.
that right? I just want to make sure we've got the, all right, so that's the motion on the floor. Do we have a second? I'll second it. Can I second it?
You can second it.
I'll second it. Any further discussion?
I personally think an odd number works best in any committee, because then there's no ties.
Right, so Bill's motion keeps the committee at 7, but is asking to get the 8 applications or letters of interest to go to the board so that you can review them all and make 7 appointments as it currently stands.
What if we get subsequent letters of interest?
I guess they
Yeah,
could go in the mix.
Yeah, I think we added to
Yeah,
the number, the pool. And that would be my suggestion.
so I'll say 7 or more. What, 7 or more applications, whatever application comes before us.
So accept all the
Ah,
applications.
there you go, there you go.
Why don't we just do it simply? Appoint these 8 people, and that's it. Appoint the 8 people that are on here. Look, these people have stepped up, they've volunteered. I got to agree with Mike that, we bash volunteers, or we've been accused of bashing volunteers. Now we got 8 people that want to step up to the plate, take all 8. They're going to, every one of them is probably going to add something to the committee, and I think we ought to go with that. If we get any others, they can certainly go to the meeting. They're all public meetings. They can go and they can throw their input in, but these probably should be the 8 official members.
All right, we have a motion and a second that we review all applicants and appoint 7 out of the pool.
Yes, that is the
Right,
motion.
okay.
And seconded.
All right. So all those in favor? All those opposed? So if you can add that to, well,
So what was the vote on that?
To accept all the applications, submit them to the board, and the board will review and appoint 7. So,
you can see if they're, I guess we have to schedule around everyone to make sure they're all available for a particular meeting.
yes, if you'd like them all present.
I mean, they don't have to be, but I mean, we do want some qualifications in writing.
And then, so can I ask, how would you like me to word it? Because, do you want me to list them under appointments for the square committee instead of listing each person individually? How would you like that worded?
One more time?
I'm just trying to figure out how you'd like that worded for the agenda. Do you want me to still list all 8
I don't
or
know.
however many names?
I don't know that you have to list everyone by name, just say the
Well, they have,
applicants.
no, their names will have to be on there if they submit it, if they're up for appointment, their
All
names
right.
have to be on the agenda. But do you want me to just list sort of Groveland Square Committee applicants and list the 8 people? Like just a brief name and address, or do you want me to put a separate line item for each candidate?
Let's do a separate line item. We'll do them one at a time.
And then in what, just random order?
Random, completely random.
Okay.
Because you might get more too, so.
Okay.
We'll make it alphabetical, this way nobody's feeling kindred.
Yeah, my only concern was just, if you're gonna go down the list, I don't wanna be the one to pick an order if you're gonna do the first 7 and then leave the 8th. I just don't, so that's why I don't wanna put them in any specific order, if you're gonna just go with the
I
first 7.
think everybody needs to be spoken with. If the 8 people apply, then 8 people need to be spoken with. We shouldn't make a decision by only meeting with 7.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying,
She says the order.
I'm saying the order. I don't wanna list 8 names, cause, most, if you're approving the first 7, then the 8th one by default wouldn't get it. I don't wanna place them we can
In a
talk about that.
perceived order.
In a
The
perceived
reason we're
order,
having them give us
yes.
their paperwork is so we can read them and.
Yeah, oh, no, absolutely, but we can talk about how you want them on the agenda.
Yeah,
I just
that's
don't
fine.
wanna list them, I don't wanna pick an order on the agenda,
Okay,
because I wouldn't want the eighth person to just not by default get on there.
right. That's not the intent. All right, so we'll try to get that for the next meeting. We'll try and get that moving. If we can, I mean,
So Lisa, do you just have those that you can just forward to me, emails or something from everybody?
I can send you their email addresses.
Oh, I didn't
Some-
know if they submitted a
Well,
letter.
no, some sent letters, some sent emails,
Okay.
so it varies.
Okay, because we did ask in the original posting for a letter of interest. That's why I think I have a few from the first three, so I don't know if the rest sent them along. Okay.
all set?
Yep.
Okay. Moving on to votes of the board, we have the minutes from August 21st, 2017.
We looked these over, they look to be in order, and I'll move for passage.
Get a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion on it? All those in favor?
Yes.
All right.
Was that all? Was that everybody?
No,
Are you
All
abstaining?
those opposed?
well, because there was a set of meeting minutes that I wanted to make some amendments to, and I'm not positive if that was the one.
Okay,
So you can just put me as an abstention.
okay.
Old business, previous agenda items that the chair does not reasonably anticipate will be discussed. Ed, you want to go first?
I'm all set.
Bill done?
No, I mean, I saw a lot of the hot topics got done throughout the town, everything looked good. I tip my hat to the highway department for finally, getting the crews out there and making our roads look good and safe and what have you, so I know they work hard. I wanted to say thank you to them. I know the long and controversial road of, Governor's Road is finally hot topped, and I'm sure those neighbors are happy over there, and hopefully they're gonna do some lumen and seeding for them. I see the 97 projects coming along, I don't know where that is, but it seems like it's getting to the end over there. So, no, I think things are coming along pretty good. And I just didn't know if did you hear anything on the well at the Pines, any information down there at all? Nothing? That's it.
That's it.
For that.
Lisa?
So, I'd still like to is this old business that we're on?
Yes.
Okay. Request for agenda items goes under Selectmen's time?
I don't think it has really. Well, it could be selectmen time.
Yeah, that's usually where it has been under selectmen's time.
So the only thing under old business is, I wonder if I could get a copy of the questions that were forwarded to the library trustees to answer the board?
Oh, I don't have those. I think they came from Mike. The ones that he
That sent to
sent to the chairman?
Yeah, I can give you those.
Lisa,
Okay.
is that what you're looking for? The
Yes,
ones? Yeah,
please,
okay.
thanks.
So, yeah, I don't have those.
Okay.
Anything else?
Not under old business.
Bill O'Neill?
Pines bathrooms, I know Bill did, touched on it briefly. Any progress, any
They've been
finality?
paving around the clock.
Nothing, so
No.
that's just a standstill.
Correct.
They haven't been paving Gardner Street. It's
No.
almost fall. They're gonna
No.
get to that
Yep.
sometime in this century,
Yep.
this year,
Gardner Street? Yep.
this month.
It's on our website. They're gonna come back the first week in October. We're at the schedule of the paving company. So they had an opening, which is why they were able to come out a few weeks earlier and get some of the roads done. They're scheduled to come back to do Gardner and all of the surrounding roads.
Great, because in the last couple of days, I've noticed the same thing happen in Gardner Street that was happening on Main Street. It's starting to move over into the other lane to avoid just the nastiness of that road, which is problematic to anybody coming head-on. And I think someone else touched on it. Mr. Chair, you've received no answers from the library in your regards to your request for information?
No, I was just looking for that email that I sent on August 21st. I said, do you want to take this down, Lisa? Or do you want me to send it to you?
Can you forward it to me? That would be
Yeah.
fine.
Bill, so I'll read it for you. Thanks for sharing your thoughts tonight. The topics we would like to discuss with your board are the new sign, board members who no longer live in town, investments and their returns. How does September 18th look for your schedule? We can add you to the agenda that night. Thanks, Mike.
Any reply?
No, I haven't heard any back.
So I thought that there was another discussion where there were going to be specific questions.
Those were the questions.
Okay, so those are topics as opposed to questions though, right?
Well, I mean, you could put a question mark at the end of it. You know.
Okay,
What are we doing with the new sign? Question mark.
okay,
We have questions about members of the board who no longer live in town. What is the policy on that? Question mark.
okay,
What are we doing with investments and their returns?
okay, thank you.
I can tell you, I did get an email from the chairman. So they have a woman who's been serving on the search committee would like to submit her name for the vacant position on the board. So they're hoping to get that to us for the next board meeting. So that would address the second question.
Okay.
Those requests go through you? Do those requests for appointment go through you?
Yes, I've asked them to send me a letter.
And anyone in town's free to submit a letter of interest,
Yep,
including members of this board?
yep.
Thank you.
All the vacant positions are on the front page of our website, and that is one of them.
Awesome. Thank you, Chair.
Did I cover everybody? No? Okay. I don't have anything for old business. Moving on to correspondence, we have the minutes from September 5th, 2017. We have the executive session minutes from September 5th, 2017. And now we are on to,
With correspondence, just a question.
yep,
We received an email about the resignation of somebody from the library trustees. I didn't see it in our correspondence, and I didn't see it under discussion of possible votes to accept the resignation.
So she's an elected official, and I did not receive it until today. It was forwarded to me by the town clerk. But her position, there was no resignation necessary. According to the state elections office, her position became vacant the day she moved out of town. So I just got it today. The agenda had already been finalized.
Okay.
on to finance director's time.
I just have a few things for you. So Melanie Rich, the woman who does our minutes, has stated her intent to no longer do our minutes. She has multiple part-time jobs and is just finding it difficult to fit this into her schedule. She will stay on until we find a replacement, but I do want to wish Melanie well. I put another email out similarly to what I did when we found Melanie to the administrative assistant's listserv. I have about 5 candidates with minutes that they've submitted as samples, so I will go through there and hopefully have a candidate for replacement. But Melanie has done a great job for the last several years. And as you all know, her minutes are very articulate, and she definitely gets everything in there, so we will miss her in doing our minutes.
But she said that she'll stay on until we find a replacement.
She will stay on
Okay.
until we find a replacement, yes.
Not only miss her, but she's very timely in getting the information back to us, and she's done a great job. I know since I've been on the board, I know in the past that had been a problem that, in fact, when I first got elected, I think we had to approve minutes from like 5 or 6 meetings prior to getting elected. And we had to use some kind of an exception to, because we weren't party to what went on, and it was approved by the town council. So she's done a great job. She should be commended for it, and give her a letter of recommendation if she wants anything or she needs anything.
Yeah, I certainly will. In addition to that, next Monday, the 25th, is the Touch-a-Truck event at the Pines, so just a reminder on that. We are in the planning stages of our 3rd annual Pumpkin Fest. That information will come out. We're meeting Wednesday, so that information will come out. Right now, we're looking around October 26th. I think we did a Thursday last year, so that would be the Thursday prior to Halloween. But we will finalize that once the committee looks at all availability and picks that.
Denise, what committee is that?
We formed a Pumpkin Fest committee last year.
It's the same committee this year?
Yep, yep. So it's myself, Bill Dunn, a member of the police station, fire station, library, and we had Deb Stewart, a member of the public.
And you're looking at the 26th?
Yes, that's the tentative date right now. Just so you know, the school committee, who was supposed to be on our agenda tonight, asked to reschedule their presentation. So they will be in touch when, I guess they got some updated information and their presentation was not going to be ready. So they will let us know when they're available to come back to discuss the high school project. Just so you're aware, we received 5 responses from this Council on Aging Design Study RFQ we had out. So the Council on Aging Building Committee is meeting to review those, and we'll interview at a minimum of 3. They may interview 4 or 5, but a minimum of 3 of those companies to select one to provide that design study. And then lastly, I was asked to acknowledge the passing of Peter Bevilacqua from Norwood Insurance, a longtime resident who recently passed away. So I was asked to just acknowledge him.
Is that it?
That's all I have.
All right. Moving on to Selectmen's time. Start down the other end. Mr. O'Neill?
Yeah, real quick, we had a meeting on Tuesday night of the new high school building committee, which I'm a member. There's a lot of talk going around all 3 towns regarding this project. I want to caution everybody to not believe just about anything you hear. There are no numbers finalized. There is no plan finalized. Nothing is final at this moment. Everything is fluid. Tremendous amount of things to be discussed and detailed out before any real numbers can be put to paper. So I caution the residents out there, they may be hearing all kinds of things. I want to tell you right from the horse's mouth that most of the information, if not all of it you're hearing, is probably misinformation, fake news. So don't believe it. Wait till the facts come out. And right now, they're yet to be determined. The project is moving ahead at a swift pace. We feel very confident with the project managers and the architects we picked. They are now into their feasibility study. But again, there are no numbers whatsoever out there to ponder over, to debate, or to kind of whittle down. This is all really preliminary, but it does seem to be moving together swiftly. All 3 towns seem to be of the same message, which is a good thing. And I think when it's done, it's going to be something that these 3 towns can be extremely, extremely proud of. It took us over 50 years to get this far. My intent is to make sure that if we have to wait another 50 years, that this building or these buildings will be more than adequate to educate our young folks in the coming years and decades. So please just try to be patient with the process. Try to stay informed, but don't buy into any of the garbage and rumors that you may hear. If somebody told you a number, they're picking it out of their rear end, and it has no validity at all. So please.
Lisa?
Oh, I'm sorry, can I just add to that? So I unfortunately couldn't attend that meeting, but I did review the minutes, and just so people know, it's probably going to be a year before a final number is actually out there.
Or maybe more.
Yeah, so it will be, at no time in the near future there'll be an estimate. So
Right.
once we go through the design process, I believe they're looking at a fall 2018 special town meeting is the target right now. So we're talking a whole year away before numbers are really finalized.
But as the public goes, people love to throw out numbers, even though they have no idea what the number is or where they got it. Some of them will just make it up.
Yeah.
There is no number that's written in stone. It's not even written on paper yet. It's not even written in invisible ink. So disregard any number that you may hear. It's completely fake news.
Lisa?
I just wanted to first say thank you to the members of Groveland Utility who've gone down to Florida to help with Hurricane Irma. I'm sure that their efforts are very much appreciated by the people that are there. Secondly, I'd like to have an agenda item in the near future to discuss the 829 meeting that was held with the Lieutenant Governor and get a debriefing on that. And thirdly, I'd like to request an agenda item to continue to discuss the personnel bylaws.
May I just ask, do you just want a discussion item on that last one?
Yes, because I don't think there's been a decision as to how we're going to move forward, if we're going to make changes or what's going to happen.
Right, no, there was not, so, okay, I'll add that to, I have a list, so just so everyone's aware, I do have a list of pending items that I go over with the chairman, so I will add those. The first one is on there.
Is that it? Still done?
Follow up on how we're doing with the town planners that gone out.
Yep, so it's back out. To date, I think I've received 3 resumes, maybe 2. One is actually very qualified. The other one lives nowhere near us and is
What's the
a
relocation
college
fee?
student. So I don't know that there's any experience that will meet our criteria, but they're I have them in my folder. So it runs until next Monday, the 25th is the deadline, and then we'll start reviewing. I will tell you, the candidate that you met before, that you chose not to move on, has expressed a continued interest in the position. So if you would consider giving him, he felt there were some questions about his real estate side of things that he could answer better now that he's more prepared to respond to those and how he would plan to work that around a schedule. He would be willing to meet with you all again if you so choose. So I told him I
Is
would
he in
pass
the
that
folder?
along. I'm sorry?
Is he in the folder?
I did. I put his reply email in with my list of items.
And he was the gentleman that had that engineering degree or something?
Yes.
Okay.
Anything else?
Right now, no.
Ed?
Yeah, just a couple things. I'd like to see a future agenda item to maybe bring back the public comment without having to notify the finance director so many hours beforehand. Maybe with some parameters, maybe we could bring that up at a future meeting for discussion. It gives the town people a chance to come in here, get some answers, and sometimes when people come in, they just don't know where to turn. And if they can come in here and speak to us, and we can head them in the right direction, I think that makes good government. So it may be a future agenda item. The second thing, I think congratulations or a thank you should go out to the 2 people down at the cemetery that are working, Bob Polizzotti and Frankie Bryan. They've turned things around down there. The cemetery is really looking pretty good. I know we were a little lax in appointing Bob the last time, so they kind of lost most of the summer. So they're playing catch-up, and just luckily, the grass isn't growing as fast as everybody knows. They don't have to mow their own lawn as often. But I think a thank you and a congratulations ought to go out to them. That's all I got.
That's it?
That's all I got.
Okay, I have one thing. I just want to caution the members of this board that the contents of an executive session are to conduct public business for the good of the public. The discussions which take place in executive session is privileged based on one of the 10 exceptions to the open meeting laws. Therefore, I would admonish any board member disseminating or discussing executive session matters outside of that environment. And that is it. So, next up, we have adjournment. Can I get a motion to adjourn at 8:39?
Motion to adjourn.
Get a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Yes.
Thanks, Tracy.